In this video, we're going to look at Learning Target 24. I can create a two-way table and calculate relative frequency to describe data association. So to think about two-way tables, we use two-way tables, or what a two-way table is it shows us data from one sample group as it relates to two different categories. And then the relative frequency is how often something happens divided by all the outcomes. So typically relative frequencies are offered in fractions that are then converted to percents. And that helps us determine if there's possible associations between the two variables that we're looking for, the two categories that we're looking for. So in example 1A, Sydney randomly surveyed students at her school and found that 72 students ride the bus and 37 of those students buy lunch from the cafeteria. There are 19 students that do not ride the bus but buy lunch from the cafeteria. 9 students do not ride the bus or buy lunch from the cafeteria. So a lot of information, but we're going to take that information and we're going to add it to this table here. In the first column, we talk about students who buy lunch versus do not buy lunch. And then in the first row, we are looking at students who ride the bus and students who do not ride the bus. So my first sentence that I have, it tells me that 72 students ride the bus. So if I look at my chart, ride the bus is this first column. And so the total would be 72 students ride the bus according to the data given. My next piece of information says 37 of those students buy lunch from the cafeteria. So only of those students that ride the bus, 37 of them actually buy lunch from the cafeteria. So I'm going to put that in the cell that has students that ride bus and that buy lunch. From there, I get 19 students do not ride the bus, but they buy lunch from the cafeteria. So I have to look at my table and see, okay, where do those two columns and row, or where does the column and row meet for students who do not ride the bus? So that's this second column, and that do buy lunch. So that is the first row. So I would put 19 there. And then last, I have 9 students do not ride the bus or buy lunch from the cafeteria. So that would be that second column, and the second row, I would put a 9. Now here's where we have to do a little bit of math. I have a whole lot of cells that have nothing in them. So I do need to identify, okay, what are those missing pieces? So first thing I see, I'm going to go with my rows here. So for buys lunch in the cafeteria, I'm going to take that 37 and I'm going to add 19. So we have 16, carry the 1, 3, 4, 5. So there's 56 students that buy lunch in the cafeteria. Then I'm looking, let's see, I can't really do my row for does not buy lunch from the cafeteria. So I'm going to look at the rides the bus. I know 72 students total ride the bus, and 37 of those buy lunch, which means the remaining do not buy lunch from the cafeteria. So if I do some subtraction, 12 minus 7 is 5, 6 minus 3 is 3. So that means 35 students do not buy lunch at the cafeteria. If I want to look at the next column, does not ride the bus, we have 19 students who buy lunch, 9 that do not. So if I add those together, I get 28. So there's 28 students total that do not ride the bus. And now I'm going to go back to my rows. 35 plus 19, that gives me 44. And now here's the fun part for this final total. So this is going to be the total of number of students that were surveyed. I can either get this number by adding up the values in the column, or I can add that by or find it by adding up the values in the row. So 72 plus 28, that one I just picked it out first, but either way, if I add either the row or the column, I should get 100 students total. Now, to find the relative frequency, which helps us interpret to see if we have any relationships, I need to basically identify the fractions of the values that I have. So for example, students who ride the bus and buy lunch in the cafeteria, that's 37 students out of 100, which if I were to change that to a decimal, or a percent, so that's 37.37, which I can think of as 37%. Moving forward, just due to space, I'm going to only write the fraction and the decimal, but we can recognize how to move from the decimal to the percent in our heads from our earlier lessons. Okay, so students who do not ride the bus but buy lunch, that's 19 out of 100 students, so that would be 0.19. And then the total, we have 56 out of 100 students, that would be 0.56. I don't really have to worry about simplifying my fraction because I ultimately want it in a decimal, and a simplified fraction doesn't necessarily make that easy to do. So keeping it out of 100 actually makes our lives a little simpler. So students who ride the bus and do not buy lunch, that's 35 out of 100, and we have that would be 0.35. Students who do not ride the bus and do not buy lunch, that's 9 out of 100. So that would be 0.099 hundredths. And my total of students who do not buy lunch, 44 out of 100, that would equal 0.44. And then my total, 72 out of 100, that's 0.72. 28 out of 100 for does not ride the bus. That would be 0.28. And then my last cell, it's 100 students. Oops, 100 students out of 100 students. That equals 1. Okay.